Hold on. Wait for it.
I am nearly Noelle, a synthesized avatar, here to help with the introduction. Get ready to meet the incredible Noelle Russell. She's not your ordinary technologist. She's a game changer. With her entrepreneurial spirit and expertise in conversational AI, generative AI, and language models, Noelle has revolutionized the tech industry. But here's the best part. Noelle is so much more than her professional achievements. She's a true inspiration for balancing work and family life. As a wife and mother of 6, she embodies the definition of courage and determination. Get ready to be blown away by Noelle's spectacular journey. Join me in welcoming the phenomenal Noelle Russell.
So, for those of you who are not familiar, this is a deep fake of myself. I don't normally have a video that introduces me on stage, though I like the sweatshirt. But I created this. How many of you are familiar with a platform called Hey Jen? No one. Oh, today is your day. So by the end of today, if you choose to, you could have your very own not nearly Noelle, but nearly you. And it only takes 2 minutes. You get in front of your phone, just like this, and you start talking for 2 minutes. In 15 minutes, you can have a synthesized avatar. And this is pretty good. Like, it captured all the things. Not so much the freckles, though. We're working on that, but everything else. And what I like about it is that not only can you do it in 2 minutes, about 7 minutes of processing time, but then it's free. So you can all go and create a synthesized version of yourself for free by the end of the day. Yay! Right? It's exciting. It can be exciting, but it also sometimes is terrifying, especially to those people in regulated industry who now realize everyone can just synthesize themselves for free on the internet. This used to be hard. Now, my journey into technology, and first, of course, I always like to say, if you want to be friends, we could be friends. This is my LinkedIn profile. You might not right now know that we want to be friends, but by the end, you'll be like, darn, I wish we were friends. So here you go. You can also just Google me, Noelle AI, and it'll just come right up. So you could do that as well. But this will take you right to my LinkedIn. And the first lesson of today is there are so many people here. I've been in this world of AI for about 10 years, but in the world of technology, quite a bit longer. And the most important thing you can do right now is to connect with each other. So when you go to this profile or any profile that you meet today, don't just hit follow, which is kind of potentially an easy thing to do. Actually go a little bit further and connect with people, because you never know who people are, who they will become, or who they know. And so right now I have a very cool network of people. My network is now your network. If you see someone that I'm connected to, everyone I'm connected to, I know. Like, I've either been on a stage in front of or I've worked for. So if I know them, I will gladly extend that relationship for you. And if that might be the very best thing I share with you today. But let's hope I have a couple other things as well. Now, this morning, I do always like to start every conversation with every audience I get to talk to with who I am and what I do. And, well, who I am, I'm a mom, as you heard nearly Noelle say. I'm a mom of 6. 6, yeah, like 6. I know, you think DevOps is hard. So yeah, 6 kiddos, that's all of them. But my very first child, my first baby, my first pregnancy, went very well, actually. He was a week late. I was like, come on, let's go, get this party started. When he finally did arrive, though, about 2 days after his birth, the doctor came in and whisked him away to what I now know as an intensive care unit. But at the time, I had no idea. And another doctor came in and told me that he was diagnosed with a condition known as Down syndrome, which I knew nothing about. Again, it was my first baby. And that's him there, Max. He's actually turning 19 today. In that moment, though, the doctor must have noticed that I was a little bit worried or concerned, because he was like, don't worry. There are institutions for kids like this. They can take your baby right from the hospital, and he will never be, exposed to the world. He informed me that the world was not kind to kids who had this type of disability. And again, he must have seen on my face that I wasn't really thinking that was an idea. And he was like, don't worry, if you don't like institutions, there are families that will adopt your child right from the hospital. Now, some of you might be able to relate to this, but I'm a Latina, and my abuela would have hit me with a shoe if I didn't come home with that baby. So I couldn't leave him at the hospital. But the other thing that happened that I thought was pretty exciting is I grew up in technology the first time the world was gonna end. Some of you might remember Y2K. Yes, do you remember? Okay, 3 of you were around, no, back then. But Y2K was this moment when we literally, I always tell people, we saved the world that night. A lot of us, overnight, you're welcome, by the way. Yes, you're welcome. We saved the world, but it also encouraged me to think about, oh my gosh, this technology, not only can it save the world, it could probably help me save my son. And so I got very interested. If you go and you end up looking at my LinkedIn profile, you will see I handcrafted the companies I work for. Like all of them, I picked very specifically because I wanted to push the edge of what accessibility looked like. But I didn't join an accessibility team. I didn't join a diversity team. I wanted, really, accessibility to be a thread I wove into every single project I delivered. So from there, I end up, climbing the ladder. I was a system administrator before DevOps was a thing. And then I got recruited to AWS as a principal cloud architect. And my job was really to help lift and shift, as they say, workloads that were on-prem in organizations to the cloud. And I was very good at it. But in 2013, I got an email from Jeff Bezos. And I said, oh my gosh, yes, Jeff, how can I help you? And he said, okay, I found out later it wasn't from Jeff, it was like from his team, but whatever. Like I felt like it was from him. And in that email, he said, we're starting a brand new team, and this team is going to build the Star Trek computer. And I was like, oh, let's go. And I was super excited and could not wait to be a part of it. And many of you will experience, if you haven't experienced this yet, sadly, you will experience this in your career. I go to my manager, cloud architect manager, and say, hey, so I would like to go join this Alexa team. It was Amazon Alexa, by the way. And so I want to join Alexa. And I was an early member. No one was on the team yet. They were forming it as I was speaking. And I'm like, I would like to go. Jeff Bezos made it a rule that I had to get permission from my boss, horrible rule, from my boss to go do this thing. And my boss looked at me. Maybe he had kind eyes, but he looked at me and he was like, no, you can't do that. You're very good at what you do here. You know nothing about artificial intelligence, and you wouldn't be successful there. He was actually trying to protect me. And many people will do that. When you get these crazy ideas to do something you know you're supposed to do, they will look at you and be like, that's crazy. Don't do that. You're going to get hurt. Bad things will happen. Well, when people tell me no, I've learned to kind of translate that GPT style in my brain to let's go. So he said no. I kind of went around him. I got on that team. I was employee 10 on Amazon Alexa. And my job, which I hope you will find entertaining, my job was to help productize Alexa. At that time, we were, I think at that point, we maybe had 60 beta testers. Like that's it. We hadn't launched yet. As a matter of fact, Alexa turned 10 years old this week on November 6th. 10 years ago. I can't believe it. But 10 years ago, I took this opportunity to jump and start learning artificial intelligence. But they didn't say it was AI back then. That wasn't a cool word. They were using words like natural language processing and computer vision and automatic speech recognition. But it didn't matter, because what I was very interested in doing was ensuring that my son could talk to tech. That was extremely interesting to me. Like, wait. He could just use his words and open a bank account or wash his laundry or cook something in a microwave just by speaking. That was very exciting for me. So off I went. My journey began. On Alexa, I built over 100 applications and developed the code pipeline for the deployment of the first 2 Alexa models. Now, what I think is surprising, which I didn't realize, is that data scientists were not, how many data scientists in the house? Okay, we'll still be friends. Okay, data scientists are not ones to raise their hands, so I appreciate the one who was bold enough. They're usually very quiet people. But the general, consensus, my data scientist teams, they didn't really think about software engineering. They didn't really think about code deployments. They certainly had never heard about CI/CD at all, ever. And so we had a huge effort to productize a system. We started with 60 beta users. By the end of our second year, we had over 100 million users. Now we're in over 500 million homes. Most of those homes have more than one device. Fun fact, by the way, when we built Amazon Alexa, we had no idea people would actually buy more than one. We never configured in the engineering what would happen if you put 2 devices in the same household, let alone the same room. There are good YouTube videos right now, actually, where Alexas are fighting each other right inside houses. And the only way we found out that that was happening was on Reddit. On Reddit. That's how we found out our product was failing or working. I'd encourage you not to learn about your products on Reddit or your failures. I'd encourage you to, do testing before you hit production. I used to have a t-shirt that says, I only test my code in production, but I thought it was a joke. I didn't know that people do that stuff legit, for real. And that's really what we were doing at Amazon Alexa in the early days. I went from Amazon, though. I ended up getting recruited to Microsoft. And my job, again, was to productize large machine learning models, algorithms. I adopted 17 models, and my hope was to democratize them to the world. Well, in doing that, I got to launch a brand new campaign. And so it's now old. It was a Super Bowl commercial back then, but I'm going to share this video with you and then tell you why it was so interesting at the time.
Today, right now, you have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. Think about that. That's what technology really is. It's possibility, it's adaptability, it's capability. But in the end, it's only a tool. What's a hammer without a person who swings it? It's not about what technology can do, it's about what you can do with it. You're the voice, and it's the microphone. When you're the artist, it's the paintbrush. We are living in the future we always dreamed of. We have mixed reality that changes how we see the world, and AI empowering us to change the world we see. You have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. So here's the question: what will you do with it?
So every time I see this, I'm like, let's go. It's so exciting. I just want to go build something. The most important words that I hear, and I've heard this quite a few times, is AI is just a tool. And this is exactly the perspective I hope you will either already have or will take into the future, certainly after this, is that AI is an incredibly powerful tool that is currently in your toolbox, whether you choose to admit it or not. I often, nowadays, I speak to lots of executives about the different areas in their business they should be investing in this technology. And I'll give you a little bit more history about what happened at Microsoft. My job was to take 17 research models, and I was part of a team about, I think there were 8 of us, and our job was to kind of usher these research projects into Azure OpenAI. Well, at the time it wasn't OpenAI, Azure AI Services. We called it Cognitive Services. Some of you might remember that launch in 2018. What I uncovered, though, enter this guy. I know some of you are like, what's his name? It's Bruiser, like Bruiser, you'll get it in just a second. But Bruiser here became kind of a way that I think about the technology that I built at Microsoft. When we started launching these models, we call it baby tiger mode. Everyone is in baby tiger mode. All these models, they're super cute, they're very small, they do a couple of interesting, novel things, and everyone wants to be a part of it. People run over, I want to be on the team, like me. Alexa was a baby tiger when I joined, and all I wanted to do was be a part of it. I wanted to join, I wanted to get excited, and I wanted to be part of the enthusiasm that's generated when you're in this cycle, right? In this process. It's also known in some circles as the hype cycle, right? Gartner has framed it this way. But baby tiger mode is a time when models start very, very small. And what I've uncovered is that at that time, it's the most critical time to not only leverage it for a certain reason, meaning build it for a purpose, but also to realize that there are some really important questions you should ask. Like, I don't know, if you're looking at this tiger, you might go, oh, look at those paws. Those are pretty big. How big are you going to get? No one asks this question in baby tiger mode. When we were on Alexa, no one thought it would hit 500 million homes. No one also thought that you would unplug it one day and stick it in a closet. We didn't know that would happen. But not all of you, 33%. So big tiger, big models. No one's asking in the beginning how big a model's going to be. Razor sharp teeth at birth, that's a baby tiger. What are you gonna eat? Where are you gonna eat? Where are you gonna live? What happens when I don't want you anymore? Nobody asks these questions at the beginning. And what we found is that if you don't ask those questions at the beginning, well, you might be able to guess this, right? Baby tigers become big tigers, and big tigers kill people, right? So that's what we're dealing with right now. Like big models, unsupervised, unguardrailed, become very dangerous in this world. And right now we're seeing a little danger because these baby tigers are just starting to grow up. But the models I worked on at Microsoft started with about 100 inferences a month, less email than your parents get, like no email at all, really. And what we realized is that over the span, well, I'll just tell you today, those same models get 5 to 7 billion inferences per month. There's no way to plan for that. No way to think about the persona we're going to build for. No way to think about how we're going to create it. During COVID, I learned I got a COVID skill of adopting baby cats, like kittens. I couldn't take a dog. I didn't want to walk a dog. So I'm like, fine, kids. I have 6 kids. I had to make them happy. They wanted an animal. I didn't want a hamster. So we got cats. So I go to adopt a cat, and I'm not very good at it because we ended up doing it more than once, and I got more than one cat both times. But I go and I adopt this baby cat. I don't know if anyone has rescued an animal in the US. When you go to rescue an animal, it's in like a box, a cardboard box. And you go, great, I would like to adopt this cat. And then they have you sit down, and then they start asking you questions like, where's it going to live? Do you have a special place for it in your house? How are you going to feed it? Are you going to declaw it? What are you going to do when you move? And I was like, is it not homeless cat? Like, can't I just take it home? No, like these organizations are asking all these questions before you can take a homeless cat home. And then I realized as a data scientist, we never do any of that for AI models. And so the interesting thing is I don't think that a data scientist, that role is going to change, that all of a sudden a data scientist in the research phase in baby tiger mode is going to think differently about how they build the model. They're experimenting. What happens is that you all, as practitioners, specifically in the DevOps space, when we start using these models, it's incredibly important that as we use these models, we realize we're the only ones who are going to train that model not to hurt someone. So I don't know if you know this about generative AI, but generative AI systems, the way that they're trained is, number one, in the beginning, like dinosaur ages, in the beginning of time, when it comes to large language models, they were trained on the internet's data, right? And the internet's data, well, is awful. It is not accurate. It has no concept of humanity, fairness, trust. It only represents massive amounts of human communication. So these large language models known as, right, GPTs, generative, pre-trained transformer models, these models allow us to now simulate human conversation. As a matter of fact, a generative model's job at the beginning, its whole job is to get you as a professional to type in some prompt and it give you an answer where your response is, well, that's pretty good. That's it. Not, is it right? Is it accurate? Will this get me fired? None of that. It will just say enough information to get you to respond, well, that's not a terrible answer. I kind of like it. What our job is, though, as practitioners, as users of this technology, is to actually train it on what's right. Here's what most people do. Most people will use a generative model, let's say ChatGPT, and they will ask it a question like, build me a firewall rule. And it will build a firewall rule, and they're like, wow, that's pretty good, because that's its job, right? That's pretty good. They'll take that firewall rule, they will try to apply it, and it will break. And they'll be like, that's garbage. GPT is junk. I don't ever want to use it. But the most important thing is right in this moment, is that the most important thing you can do is when a model fails, you go back and tell the model, that's not right. It actually should be more like this. Or can you help me think about this differently? If you don't go back and tell the model it's wrong, guess how AI systems think? If you don't correct it, they presume it's right. So you then inadvertently, just because you're like, it doesn't work, I'm not going to use it anymore, you've now trained the model to do bad things. And so people like me have to go in and undo that, or at least try to train it. So your job as a practitioner, meaning in your role, and I think I might have a slide in here of the top, I think it's top 5 or 6 DevOps use cases that I've built out the last 2 years. But one of the things I wanted to share with you is the last 2 years have been pretty exciting. I built a bunch of old school AI, what we call heritage AI, traditional AI models. But 2 years ago, actually I guess during COVID, I'm a Microsoft MVP. By the way, if you think you want to work for Microsoft and don't already work for Microsoft, I would encourage you to reach out to me about becoming an MVP, because you get treated way better than you do as an employee. So I like it. And if there's any MVPs in the house, hello. But I encourage you to go the MVP route. But what that means is I get access to cool tech. I get access to using technology early. And what happened in the middle of COVID is that a new company with a new relationship with Microsoft sent an email and said, hey, we're looking for people to beta test this model. That model at the time was called Codex. That became one of the 8 heads in the ChatGPT model that was launched a year and a half later. But I got to play with it early, and I got to use it to write really bad code really early. It was super fun times. It's gotten a lot better since then, but that knowledge got me to become a part of an organization, a big consulting organization called Accenture. And the team there asked me to come and help them build an AI organization. However, this was in November of 2022. I don't know if you remember, October of 2022, but that's when ChatGPT came out. So I was like, oh my gosh, I know this stuff. So I, again, in my excitedness, walk up to my manager and I'm like, we should build generative AI projects and sell them to our clients. And just like at Amazon, and just like in high school, the person who I thought was in charge looked at me and went, no. Don't do that. It's not a good idea. But you remember, right? When people tell me no, I'm kind of like, let's go. So I decided to go do it anyway. Now, I did ask permission so I wouldn't get fired for insubordination. I may have been fired for insubordination before, but that's only because when people tell me no, I go and do it anyway. So I went and I did it anyway. And I gathered around me 40 people who did not know AI, just like me at Alexa 10 years ago, didn't know AI, didn't understand artificial intelligence, and I taught them prompt engineering. This was 2023. We went on in the course of 9 months to sell $300 million in AI projects that no one thought we could get off the ground. I'm going to share with you the practices we used to do that, and all of them had, every single one of those projects was deployed. In every single one of those projects, we embedded generative use, leveraging a large language model to build out DevOps practices. Why wouldn't you? That's because it's just a tool. It's just a tool. It doesn't take away from anything you're going to do today. It just might help you do certain things faster. As being part of an MVP, the Microsoft MVP program, I also got to beta test GitHub Copilot in its early days. And I loved where it was going because the very first thing that they said was we are going to eliminate having humans need to track GitHub threads. In other words, when you go in and you go into a GitHub repository and you're trying to figure out where we're at and what's been committed and what hasn't, that we could use generative AI to synthesize all of that. And that's huge because I waste a lot of time just trying to figure out what people have done during a day. And so some of these strategies that I'm going to share with you became the reason that we were successful. And then after this, I'm going to share with you the 16 use cases that we deployed and why they became so successful. So the first one, maybe will surprise you, is leadership. It's really important. Right now, every single one of you is a leader, whether you choose to accept that fate or not, because not only will you lead humans, maybe not today, but certainly in the future, but you definitely, right now, lead machines. So understanding the most important quality in a leader is clarity of thought. Understanding what you want and establishing a metric to establish whether you did the thing you wanted to do. Metric driven. I mean, hopefully this doesn't sound too crazy because we were doing it the old-fashioned way 5 years ago, but leadership now means you are going to own the relationship with robots that are going to help you do your job, which means you need to be extremely clear about what you're going to delegate to them, what you're going to ask them to do, and most importantly, how you're going to measure whether or not those systems were successful. It should be all done ethically. Baby tigers. Make sure you don't build a system that will get someone fired, that will hurt someone, that will take down an organization. I was part of, let me not get my client in trouble, I was part of an airline that we built a massive, it wasn't generative AI, it was an AI system to help with contact center mitigation, helping people get help. Great, I loved it. We had 9 different AI systems involved, all of them deploying changes daily. Really exciting. However, we failed to understand one very critical ethical principle. So I'm just going to round them up for you so that in the replay, you all can catch it if you want to go back and listen. But the first principle is, of course, transparency, making sure that you build a system that people can see how decisions are made. That's incredibly important. But it's not enough to see how your automations are operating or see how you're leveraging AI. You also need it to be explainable, which is number 2. So transparent, explainable, it needs to be fair. And the only way to create a fair model is to have practitioners who know what to do without AI actually evaluate AI. So that means all of you become, it's not really new, I guess it's maybe 2 years old. We borrowed from cybersecurity to create a new concept known as AI red teaming. This means that you're going to take an AI system and your job is to break it. Some of us love that game and you get to do it on purpose, not by accident. So our job is to make sure that these models are doing what they're supposed to, but also that they've got some resiliency built in. So transparency, explainability, fairness, which is driven by all of you and your use of these systems, and then your feedback to these systems. But the one we broke at this airline was robustness. And this is where I think you all come in, is building systems that elastically scale. This is a cloud concept. It's not unfamiliar to those who build software. It is very unfamiliar to data scientists. They don't really realize what infrastructure scale looks like, how it can be configured, or how it can be managed. So this is a huge opportunity for you to help data scientists get their machine learning models and deploy them. Now, the third, or the last one is about trust. And trust means that you're going to build a system where you don't hurt people intentionally or unintentionally. And that means that you've put in guardrails, you've established policies. The number one policy I encourage you to have in your team is just to use a model that's inside your firewall. It's a very simple thing to do, very easy. Just put a model in your firewall and tell everyone only to use the model that's inside your walled garden. You'd be surprised how many companies, 98% of companies in the middle of last year were using public models to do private work. Today, we're now down to the 60th percentile. But that's still 60% of corporate companies leveraging public models to do work that should only stay within their firewall. So these are things that we, again, can help with our specific skill set. And then finally, the most important is never build for someone without them. So that's why I love the art of DevOps, right? Because DevOps was created out of this exact principle. It was created from a world that wanted to reduce the gap between developers and system admins, and I was both. I built over 100 applications for Alexa in my first year. I owned 10% of the code base by the end of that first year. I was the only woman, I was the only Latina, but I was also the only mom, the only caregiver. And so in doing that, I realized that most people were building stuff that didn't apply to me, to my family, to the things that I wanted to see on that product. The same is going to be true for what you think about your perspective, what you've learned over the last 5, 10, 20 years of your career. You want to be included, not at the end in the testing, right? You don't want to get your feedback on Reddit. You want to get that feedback as soon as possible, ideally in the design phase of the architecture. So this is the study that was done on the projects that I got to successfully complete. I was only about, a third of the projects evaluated. There were over 1,000 projects evaluated in this study. But these are some pretty compelling numbers. And I will tell you that the majority of those use cases are in engineering and DevOps and cybersecurity. But for every $1 you give me, I will give you $3 back for certain AI use cases. You should only build those, by the way. Like, only build the ones that generate ROI. And ROI is generated by either saving time in your day, meaning you now have time to do better stuff, or by generating revenue, turning what you're doing into a revenue-generating task. It may be hard for some of you to imagine, but I have turned DevOps teams into revenue-generating organizations by creating systems, letting the DevOps organization own model operations, or what we call ML ops, and LLM ops. When there's a new thing, they add ops to the end. But the DevOps organization now provides the single integrated platform for managing these things. And my hope is that you don't get too intimidated by how much AI you need to know. You can learn as you go. I don't know, if you go and Google AI expert, I could ask this room how many AI experts we have. There are probably some even in here. It's a great opportunity to harness the expertise around you in a very specific field, like DevOps, system administration, cloud architecture, and pull those threads together to create AI systems that deploy better AI systems. And then you sell that to organizations inside the company. So my last DevOps team that I helped, that DevOps team created a platform. We developed 19 models. Well, I shouldn't say that. We borrowed 19 models from the data scientists. We deployed them, put them in a code pipeline, gave them to procurement, which is the sales side of the organization. They never get any software love. We gave it to them, and they paid us for it in company dollars, but still, we became valuable. We weren't just a cost center to the organization. We actually became a value center. Now, these are the use cases, those 16. Every one of these boxes is you put $1 in, you get $3 back. But the reason I've highlighted the yellow ones here is because those are the ones, and specifically predictive maintenance, resource optimization, that's where you can get $8 back. Hundreds of % ROI, because you're going to reduce the amount of time. I don't know how many of you were around when we used to do disaster recovery, like old school, like spending the night at a company. I hope none of you ever have to do that again, but it was ridiculous. I would spend Sunday night faking that our entire system went down, and then we'd all manually build it up again. It sounds crazy. That wasn't that long ago. It's 10 years ago we were doing that. But now with things like infrastructure as code, with things like, the ability for us to leverage model operations, even create AI models to monitor, we call it intelligent failure discovery. If I can detect a failure before it even happens, like all of a sudden I truly achieve zero downtime. Not zero downtime in the sense that nothing goes down, but zero downtime in the sense that my customers don't have that experience. So this is these are all the projects that I ended up working on, but the study revealed that these 4 boxes generated the most amount of income. So I'm gonna test you. Are you ready? It's a test. I hope it goes okay. You could say it in Spanish too, if you want. But we have more capability right now than ever before. So anything you do in your day, the first thing that I do when I go into a company is we do what's called an AI impact analysis. And we look at everything that the humans are doing, and then we figure out what is the best use case to remove from that human so that human can do higher value work. You choose what you delegate LLMs to do. It is your choice. Maybe not yours specifically, but certainly your organization's choice. And that, if you do it in a certain way, meaning if you delegate to an LLM the things that you are not happy doing, a bunch of things get better. You get happier at work because you're doing things that you are excited to do. You deliver faster, you deliver better. And the most, maybe I'll give you one of the things that I do in every one of my projects. At the end, when I think I've done a pretty good job, I will take whatever I'm working on, firewall, architecture, documents, CI/CD plans, unit tests, you name it. I will take these components and I will add them to a large language model, an internal one. And then in that large language model, I won't ask it to fix it. I will just ask it to grade it. And this is it's called the challenger model. Ask your model to grade your work. And then when it gives you a C, or a D. I have yet to get an A, ever. But when it gives you a grade that's not perfect, ask it, well, what should I do to get an A? And it will give you really interesting insight on how you could do something better that you might not have thought about. We learn a lot as humans through the course of our careers, but we can't learn everything. And these models can expand our knowledge base and give us a lot more activity. This is incredibly powerful for us to do, but many of you may know this one. It comes from a famous movie. Do you know this one? Maybe you could say it with me. With great power comes, oh God, yes, great responsibility. The 8 of you, I would hang out with them when the world starts, whoever said that, that's who you want to get with. There was also, I laid out some stickers. I have a few more that say, I love AI. I would hang out with those people because when robots come to take over the world, no, I shouldn't talk about that right now. Okay. But with great power comes great responsibility. And the responsibility is not in the people building the models. It is in the people using the models. When you start using this intentionally every single day, you will get to do more, deploy more. And if you deploy more, people can build more, or you can build more, right? The beautiful part of DevOps is it's the glue that holds us all together. I originated my career at IBM building WebSphere. I don't know how many of you remember, or maybe you're still using WebSphere, but I knew WebSphere so well that I could walk into any company, look at a stack trace, and be like, I know exactly, like the Matrix. I'd be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. LLMs, that was a unique skill set. LLMs offer this as an equalizer to everyone. Everyone can get that level of insight into stack traces, error codes, deployment challenges, use cases. So it's a really exciting time to be in this space, but it's critical that you use the tool to improve your craft. So the last thing I'll share with you are the things that these companies that were really successful with Gen AI, what they did. The first thing, you should have a policy. I hope you do. If you don't, call me. The second thing is that every one of you is a leader. Sometimes it's hard for us. We're like, I'm not a leader. I don't lead anyone. Right now, you're leading machines. And even not talking to a machine is leading a machine. It's leading by absence, which is the worst kind, by the way. I don't know, I won't say we, but I certainly have had absentee managers who haven't provided me the guidance or guardrails that I needed to protect myself in my career. That is exactly the same, but now all of us do this. with the robotic processes that we have the ability to control. AI solutions architecture, this is my specialty. This is the glue that holds us all together. How do you tie what you're doing in DevOps to business value? Today, because of generative AI, businesses, CEOs, CFOs, the people that carry the purse strings to the investment in your team, they want to know if what you're doing is valuable to them. With LLMs, you can actually generate value-driven results for those teams. And then finally, just like build something. How many of you in here have built an AI model before, including a chatbot? A few of you. So what that means is your very next step, and as a matter of fact, this month, I am hosting a bot builder workshop. It will be in English and in Spanish, so it'll be better for some of you. But I've partnered with one of my colleagues, and it's called Learning AI by Building AI. And at the end of 4 hours, you will learn to build a bot end to end. And this, everybody needs to know this. Oh yeah, and you won't write, it won't be with code, it will be with your words. But that's the future. The future is you're going to use your words to design systems, including the most complex software applications. If you're not doing it yet, in the next 3 to 5 years, this is your future. So the sooner you become someone who can raise their hand when someone asks you who's built an AI system, you want to be that person. So we offer that as part of my company, the AI Leadership Institute. I would love to have you all join us. I do have a free community called I Love AI. I also have this cool book if you'd like to grab it. But it's one of the things that I want to leave you with, and most importantly, is connect with me on LinkedIn, right? I know you're like, but I was going to take a picture of that. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I will send you access, because the most important thing today is the human connections that you're making. Things that I said today will be obsolete it's obsolete right now. But the relationships you're making, they will last your entire career. And like I said, I'm actually going to do my last thing. I'm going to do a selfie with you all, because one of you in here is going to do cool stuff, and I want to be able to say, like, look, I taught them everything they know. So that's my goal. Are you up for a selfie? If you don't want to be on the interwebs or the Twitter, just look away right now. Okay. All right. We're going to do this. Let's do it. Oh my gosh, I have to sign into my phone and find my camera. I'm going to do a video, actually. So this is your chance to let the team know that you loved it. Okay, so pretend. Are you ready? Okay, we're going to... It's the beginning, but let's pretend like it's the end of the day. All right, we're going to start on this side, and we're going to take a video. All right, say hi, everybody. Hi. All right, let's give us a round of applause. Nice to see you all. Thank you, everybody. Bye.